It's sometime in 2015. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is a Tuesday Geeknights. This will go up at some point because I'm still in Singapore and Australia.
We don't have any news because who knows what day this is or what news has happened.
Yep. And while I got some Geekibytes and things, those can wait. And yeah, so we're just going to talk about the games we played at PAX.
Yeah, because the PAX Prime was very recent. It was the week before Labor Day this year, a little bit early, and we played a lot of new board games. Like, I had a whole list of board games I wanted to play that I had not played yet, and I played them all pretty much. There's no board games right now that I know of. Oh, maybe one. That one with the sort of Hanabi-ish spellcasting game.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway.
I played that game. That game's really good.
I didn't play it. And
I won that game.
But we played pretty much all the other games we wanted to play and learned a whole bunch of new stuff so we can talk about all these games.
So we're going to talk about a bunch that were pretty good, and then as the main bit, we're going to review the one that was actually good.
Right, and I think there's some other ones that deserve a full episode as well, like Camel Up Cup.
Oh, Camel Up's getting its own episode.
Right.
And Camel
like
Cup can eat a dick. That game sucks, but Camel Up
is the
pretty
real
good.
deal, right? So
also, our friends who own Camel Up might, we'll see what happens to them.
Let's do this.
So, Tumblin Dice kind of broke out in the sense that we played it a lot at the end of every day before we'd all go to bed. Because you could kind of just, you could teach a stranger how to play this game.
You don't need to teach anyone how to play tumbling dice. They look at the tumbling dice and they immediately understand how to play the game without any instructions whatsoever.
Multiple strangers stood back and tried to throw their dice at it. You did have to explain to them.
Well, I mean, that's just like playground rules, right? It's like, all right, guys, But basically, the way tumbling dice works is much like the title. You have dice and you tumble them. Everyone gets 4d6 and you take turns tumbling them on this apparatus, which is pretty much a set of terraces, and at the bottom there are these tiny terraces that say X4 on them. So obviously
X0, X1, X2, X3, X4, and there's holes
so obviously
between.
If your dice lands on, say, the X2 terrace
and you roll a 5
and the number 5 is on it, you have scored 10 points. And you take turns throwing one die at a time. Much like shuffleboard, dice can bump other dice, usually moving them to lower tiers or off the board entirely. And when all the dice have been tossed by all players, you add up the scores of the dice remaining on the board, and you try to get the highest score you can, which would be 6 times 4, because you got a 6 on your die on the 4 terrace, and then you got 4 of those, 24 times 4, the best possible score.
This game...
Worst score, 0.
That is literally it. The game...
That's all there is to it.
...is so simple.
Dexterity game, throw dice.
Now, it's been released...
There's luck, and there's also skill. The skill is, where does the dice end up? Can you get the die to land on the little tiny 4 terraces through those bumpers and around everyone else's dice?
Of course, the answer is yes.
And
I'm actually really fucking good at this game.
Knock your enemy's dice off the board at the same time. Can you do that, skill-wise and also luck-wise? What face does your die show up on? Because guess what? If you get all the way down onto the 4 tier with a high skill toss, and it's facing 1 up, that's 4 garbage points.
Granted, I feel like the secret...
If you get like a 5 on the 2 terrace, which is really easy to do, that's 10 points.
Well, the trick is, the real strategy, the real skill at least, is you put it on the 5 probably, or the 4, depending. I had a pretty good...
People, see, I was thinking that too when I
first
started.
It worked reliably. I was able to get the number I
was
wanted.
watching other people who were and were not doing that,
Yep.
and I obviously didn't calculate with a calculator, but it did not seem to be that there was any consistent...
Well, a lot of those people were bouncing, flicking, or throwing. I would do a straight, simple slide. I was very, very careful.
I was watching you as well. I did not notice you getting consistently higher results on your die face.
I definitely was.
You got plenty of 1s and 2s, just like everyone else.
Well, usually because I got knocked into a place and the die rolled over.
I would have. Well, maybe if you had gotten a 1 to begin with, then it got knocked, it would have ended up as a 5. Right?
Yeah, maybe.
There's a lot. So there is a, regardless of how much Jigaboo Jones you have, the fact that you don't throw all your dice at once last, and other people get to throw after you, even if you can Jigaboo Jones and get the face up that you want, there is a luck element, which is the facing of the die. The skill element is where the die goes.
Yep. It's also just kind of shuffleboard, like What order the players go in matters a fuck ton.
It creates a lot of excitement.
I think we could fix a problem with the game by instead of doing round robin turn order, doing some other like snake or some other form of player turn order.
We've also had the obvious idea of don't just use D6, use all kinds of other die, use different die, maybe bigger ones, maybe smaller ones.
We experimented. Actually, the other dice did not work that well.
No, I think there's a lot going on here. You can make different terraces with different bumpers.
Well, no, you can't with the game by default. The game.
No, but I mean, you could make a tumbling dice.
I was getting to that.
As
so
opposed
this
to buying
game
a tumbling dice.
is basically like one of those Toys R Us Milton Bradley style games that it's been re-released a million times.
Yeah,
it's the kind of thing you'd see in a normal toy store.
Much like Crokinole, you should make one. I suggest not buy
So
one.
yeah, if you go to Board Game Geek, you see all these different editions. Even the official ones are all slightly different. But then people posted pictures of the custom sets they made.
See, that is a real tumbling dice right
Look
there.
at that.
That is the highest quality tumbling dice.
Look at this
Whoa,
one.
that's the god of tumbling dice.
That is 4 tumbling dice. And look, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's a 0 hanging out each one of these places.
Whoa, they just stack tumbling dices on top of each other?
4 sets of tumbling dice. They call it Niagara Falls.
That is incredible. How many? But do you throw 16 die?
Oh, so there's comments here. So is this for real? And the response is, we played one game. No, it doesn't work. I guess if I would have put them on the sides instead, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, because as dice get further from you, they're going to spread out sideways. Trying to get them go straight down a bowling alley is pretty difficult.
I think it would work better. I think they just were low skill. We'll see.
We'll see.
Well, we won't see unless we
You're
get
gonna
this.
get 4 tumbling dice and stack them up?
But tumbling dice it's in this class of games. I'll actually, aside from the dexterity component, it's in this other like meta class of games that are good at attracting strangers and getting them to play a game with you. Much like Zendo.
You can walk up to a tumbling dice, throw your 4 dice like in a minute, and then leave and know exactly what your score was and cheer or whatever, and you're good.
But we met a bunch of cool people just because like we had it out, and strangers would be like, "Hey, what do you like to walk over to watch?" And when you can turn to someone and be like, "You see this really weird thing we're doing? You want to do it too?"
You hand them 4d6 and be like, "You're green." Oh, you're not green because I'm green.
Yeah, I'm
Here,
green.
take the red dice. Okay. Then they play. They don't need to know anything.
It's like Zendo does the same thing. You have a game that's weird and has a weird crowd around it, and people are attracted to it.
Even more than Zendo, because the Zendo and set and those sorts of things need some sort of instruction. Tumbling dice needs nothing other than intelligence and looking at it for a minute. Not even a minute, less than a minute.
Yep. Even the first PAX we went to in 2008 in Seattle, the game that attracted a huge crowd where we met a bunch of cool people and then had like friends for the rest of the PAX was Via Paletti, which still required like rules and explanation, but had a spectacle.
Yep.
This is the spectacle, but requires no rules or explanation.
Anyway, tumbling dice.
Yeah, Tumbling Dice, pretty good.
All right,
Props to Chris and Anthony for bringing it.
What other game do you want to talk about for a
So,
few minutes?
Viticulture.
Viticulture is a worker placement game with a really good theme, and it's not a great worker placement game.
Yep, it relies too much on cards and fiddly actions. The cards, it has all these mechanics like you get grapes, and the grapes age, which doesn't happen in the real world, but nonetheless, the grapes can age and get better over time.
And then you can turn them into wine, which also ages.
Yep, independently you turn
And
them
then
into
you
wine.
fill orders, and you can fill orders with better wine than they asked for, but you can just fill the orders and get points.
And we played it once, and it was...
we can't do a whole episode on something we played once, but first of all, we played with 6 players, big mistake. Play with 4 or less players because it takes forever if you play with 6 players.
Even the people who like the game were like, no, 6 players is bullshit.
Yeah. In Agricola, you start the game with a hand of cards and that's it. In this game, you basically can take actions to get different kinds of cards. But
then the cards are multiple actions.
And the cards are all over the place. Like
They
some
range
cards were useless garbage, and some cards were ridiculously powerful. Fuck over everyone else, get 1,000,000 points.
Yeah, like you think the potato dibber was overpowered in Agricola? No.
No.
That potato dibber is a little bit
The
overpowered.
theme of the game, though, is ridiculously fun. I started the game with a tasting room, and every time I went with the tasting room, I'm like, oh, the tasting room.
Yeah, I did really well, despite getting fucked by the fact that, one, the rules were taught slightly incorrectly because, much like Ground Floor and all those other Kickstarter kind of games, this game has some, like, fiddly, non-intuitive mechanics along the way.
But it has all these custom wooden bits to represent the tasting room and my favorite, the truss.
Truss? You like trusses? What about
It
the
has
yoke?
has little grapes hanging from it.
Yeah,
the
it
yoke
does.
is the most useless thing. No one built it.
No, someone built it because they actually...
It was a mistake.
They used it to harvest once.
Mistake.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, the you get all these little wooden things to represent all the like upgrades you make to your vintner facilities, which were kind of fun. Getting a tasting room and a truss because you get to put the little wooden thing that has little wooden grapes on it.
Just my initial read is that I don't think it was play tested very closely, like very well.
No,
and
they just took worker placement, added the theme, and they're like, all right.
Well, they added theme, and I'm pretty sure the game designers, Jamie Stegmeyer and Alan Stone, my guess, I don't know them, I don't know anything about them, is that they had a cool idea about a game where you get grapes and wine, and the wine can age, and they kind of just went
they
from
made
there.
the mechanics fit the theme. They used mechanics that were, tried and true
and
worker
they came
placement
up
mechanics.
with clever mechanics along the way.
Right.
Like, there's all these things, and every one of them can be upgraded. That's cool.
Yeah, they made it really match the theme, and as a result, the game suffers.
Yeah. I'll play. We got to play it a couple more times because it's moderately popular.
I could play it a couple more times, but it's like
to review it fully.
I had enough worker placement games. I don't need to play anymore.
So I'll say this: if you trust our first impressions, you can skip this one. If you don't trust our first impressions,
if you really like worker placement that much that you want to play like every worker placement game,
play Kalis first. And then play Agricola, and then play Caverna.
It's like you really, if you have those, like if you have that many worker placements, do you really need another one?
Yeah, Lords of Waterdeep.
You must really, really, really fucking like wine and really want to get off on the fantasy of growing grapes and playing with a little wooden truss.
Also, you don't make anyway. The theme actually is pretty broken if you actually know a lot about wine, so it's a little.
Yeah, but I mean, it at least feels like winemaking. You get the stomping things, you step on the grapes.
Yep, and then you can stomp them immediately, but keep them forever, and they never go bad, and they get better over time after you stomp them.
Yes,
so
wine is older is always better. At least it might not actually be better, but you can sell it for more.
But if I played a few more times,
yeah, I guess they could. If they really wanted to be thematic, there should be some more vinegar in this game.
like the vinegar would be the equivalent of the brown peppers in Scoville.
Oh,
yeah, but it's in that class of games that unless you're hurting for a game, it's not that good.
And if you've got this game, you're so into board games, you definitely have another worker placement game on hand.
Yeah.
You definitely do.
And
you're not telling me that you're in a worker placement mood, and this in Viticulture is the only worker placement game that you have with you.
Like, if you play this game more than 4 or 5 times, period, you're going to have a really clear, specific path through this game
and hope that you get the cards to do
I
it.
suspect there are several degenerate strategies, then like Scott hinted at, the cards are literally all that matter, which is also true of Agricola, but it takes a lot longer to get to that, and the cards are all pretty equally powered except the overpowered potato dibber. Seriously, every time I draw the potato dibber, I win.
Anyway.
Like, every time.
Dib it.
So,
it good.
We also played, each of us once, in 2 separate games, Elysium.
Okay.
Which had a clever mechanic.
Well, the mechanic was explained to me incorrectly.
It was explained to me
with.
incorrectly as well.
And then it was corrected midway through the game, and I still managed to win.
I came in second place because I had a ridiculous fucking combo. I had a card that gave you, the classic 1 victory point for every 3 victory points.
Mm-hmm.
I had a way to do that twice in a row at the end of the game.
Yeah, so basically the way the game works...
Jeremy beat me because he happened to have a card that just gave you a fuck bazillion points.
You didn't win?
He had a card that pushed him past me.
Okay. But anyway, so the way the game works is you've got these 4 sticks of different colors. And on your turn, there's a whole bunch of cards out in the field. You can basically... and there's also like these plates you can take. And you spend one of your sticks to take some of the stuff, take something from the field. Right?
But you have to have a stick unspent of the color of the thing, but you don't have to spend that one to take the thing. So if I have a red and a green, I can take something that has a red, or something that has a green on it, or something that has a red or a green and a colorless one showing that you have to have at least 2. But then I give up any one of my sticks.
See, I was told incorrectly. The incorrect part that I was told was, okay, look, you want to use your red to take that card. You still have to have your red and discard one of the different non-red sticks.
That's what I was told too.
And that's not correct. You can discard the red stick and take the red card.
Oh, I was told that you could discard whatever you wanted and take the red card.
Yeah, so you were told correctly.
Okay.
So I was told incorrectly. I thought if I wanted to take the red card, I had to still have my red stick after discarding one of my sticks. So that, right, which was incorrect. So I was like, really restricting myself early in the game. But anyway, all the cards you get are part of different Greek gods or whatever, right, and shit like that.
And actually, much like Viticulture, they're all like take Seven Wonders, right? And expand the scope of what a card could do like 10 times over.
Right. So basically,
if every card was like the crazy victory point cards at the end of the game. If every
so the way
card
it
was
works
that.
is when you get a card, it goes on top in front of your sort of play area. And when it's in front of your play area, the text on the card is active. It's like a building you've built in Glory to Rome, right? It does, or a creature you summon in Magic. It does stuff. So one strategy in the game is to get a bunch of cards out in front and use their powers combined to get a lot of points. The other thing you can do is if you get all the cards have numbers and colors because the color goes with the god it goes with, and they're numbered like 1, 2, 3, 4. You can get cards in sets. Like gin rummy sets, like 1, 2, 3, all same color.
That stuff was actually all explained to me incorrectly.
Oh,
so
that wasn't explained to me incorrectly at all.
Yeah, that part. So I thought I was making a set that turned out was not a set.
Yeah, there's a little helper card that I kept looking at all the time.
I still almost won though.
Yeah, there's a little helper card that tells you what sets you can make. So if you build up in front of your area enough cards to make one of these sort of runs. You can then spend an action or there's different things.
No. You can put them down at any time. You can only put down another card that you have to put it into the set or make it its own set. Cards in the front of your thing also have a power you can do. Once you pull them into the back, they can't do their powers anymore.
Right,
but they're worth victory points. Cards in the front are worth bupkis at the end of the game.
Right, so it's like when a card is in the front, you use its ability to get points and do things to help you.
So like imagine
when a card is
Magic.
on the bottom, the card is disabled, but you've made a set that is now worth victory points.
Here's the best way I can describe it.
And if you're the first person to make a particular kind of set,
you get a fuck ton of victory points.
You get some bonus points from the side.
So here's the best way I'll describe it, because it's Geeknights. You guys have played Magic probably. Say I've got my Llanowar elves.
Yep.
I have to have my green forest stick out still to take the Llanowar elves, and I discard any stick.
You could be the green one that you
Yes, but
discard.
it could be anything.
Right.
Now I've got the Llanowar elves in front of me. I can tap them to get that mana.
Yep.
At any point. I have some power now. It's a power I can just use on my turn.
Yep.
Or
if you get 2 more elves of other kinds.
Or at any point on my turns, I can use my power to pull the Llanowar elves back. Once they're pulled back, I can never tap them again.
I don't think it's any time. I only played it once and I don't remember that well, but I thought you could only move a certain number of things according to
you have
something.
It's like a Dominion. You have a number of buy actions.
I didn't think it was any time on your turn either. I thought
it's when you have that action.
Right.
I'm skipping a lot of those fiddly mechanics,
anyway.
obviously. So
there's a limit to how many things you can pull back.
There's an economy. You know what it's like? It's like the merchant in Glory to Rome.
Yes, exactly. You have to take that action to move stuff down.
Sometimes you get 2 of that action or 3 of that action.
Exactly.
And the game actually goes really quick and you have very few turns.
Yep.
So you pretty much got to pull something back every turn or you're fucked.
Yep.
But so if the Llanowar elves are out in front of you at the end of the game, you could have tapped them on that last turn, but you get 0 points for them. If they're pulled back by the end of the game, they couldn't be tapped once they get pulled back, but they're worth a victory point. And if you got 3 Llanowar elves, they're worth 9 victory points. And if you got a Llanowar elf and something that costs 2 and a war elephant and whatever, I'm trying to think of creatures with those. Anyway,
whatever.
Then it'll be worth another set of points. And
at the end of the game, most points wins.
I don't think it's a good game.
I don't think it's good either.
It's got a lot of clever mechanics, but they're not intuitive. There's too many of them, and just like Viticulture, it's a lot like when you play it, Seven Wonders, but Seven Wonders, the card colors have a pretty constrained set of things they can do, such that they can be represented by a relatively simple system of icons. This game
that you have to look up every time you play.
True, but at least that gives you some parameters. This game, imagine one card's get 3 gold, and another card is a paragraph of bullshit you can do.
Yep.
It's so all over the place that unless you have memorized every single card in the game, you cannot have a strategy.
So what I did is I basically found a card, and I won the game, by the way, the one I played. I found a card that was hey, take a card that's out in front of you, throw it away, and take a random card from the deck and put it in front of you to replace it.
I got that same card.
I basically took all my other cards and made perfect sets and kept putting them behind as quickly as possible because that's the direct path to victory points, right? I kept getting the bonus chits because I was the first one to do so. And then I kept that one card out there and kept using it once a turn because that's as much as I could use it. And you get these guys that are like wild cards if you move them back, but they're also negative victory points.
Oh yeah, the citizens.
I kept discarding the citizens with that power to go and get new cards that weren't citizens. And, you know, it's like, I'm just getting free cards all over the place.
So
here.
I did a thing that basically I could tap these guys.
I
Just keep
basically
getting
scored
victory
like
points.
6 points by throwing away 3 citizens.
6?
And then scored another set of points because that got me a set of cards.
I got like 20 or 30
points.
points from my bullshit combo of I got some cards that I could keep tapping, just keep getting victory points.
I had 15 points just from bonusy chits.
I had like 40 from bonusy chits.
You had that many bonusy chits?
Yeah, at the end of the game, I had like 60 something from bonus chits.
Whoa.
Because I don't.
Nobody else was getting any points in your game.
I basically did things to get a ton of bonus chits because I got a card that gave me a point for every 3 bonus point chits I had.
Now I'm talking about those ones. I'm talking about the ones where like the first one to get a black set gets this.
I got 2 of those.
Yeah, the regular victory point chits, I only had a moderate number of.
See,
I didn't go hard on that.
There's so many other mechanics in this game that unless I showed you a bunch of examples, I could not teach this to you without visual aids.
I do think, though, that you could take the stick mechanic and apply that to a different game. That would be interesting.
The stick mechanic was extra good because it had if you get fucked and can't take anything, you have to take a citizen. They kind of suck.
And it also sort of forced you into, like, you couldn't just pick the thing you wanted, right? A lot of worker placement games, it's like, do you have a worker? Put it on one of the workplaces. Here, it's like you have a red, a green, a blue, and a yellow, and they're all different. And if you use, if you have the red one, you can still do red actions, but you're going to give up the right to do a green, yellow, or blue
action. So every
action.
turn you say, this set of the cards out there, I cannot take.
Yeah, and as you take more and more actions, the number of actions still available to you is more and more limited.
Which it does, this power, like this mechanic, heavily reduces analysis paralysis because every choice you take closes a whole bunch of doors.
And it's not even like the doors are actually closed and you just don't realize it. It's like, no, they are closed. You cannot do that.
So you get in a situation of like, oh, I want to discard my red one, but if I do, Scott could take the red, one of the other actions, like the final action. You know, the thing that you have to take one of, the adventure or whatever, fucking me and forcing me to not be able to take one.
All right, let's talk about
not.
Game. Let's talk about not Elysium.
I thought you were going to talk about the other mechanics of Elysium.
Let's be done with Elysium.
Yeah, Elysium, I think, is the worst of the games we talked about. A lot of clever ideas.
It's not a game I want to play. I have no desire to ever play Elysium again.
Once again,
I don't hate it, but I don't have a desire to play it.
If you design a game and the core of and it has a bunch of clear, specific, simple, or interesting mechanics, but you have a side mechanic of a lot of cards with a lot of paragraphs of text on them, your game is probably poorly designed.
It better be a card game.
Yep, and you don't realize it's poorly designed because
like Dominion or something.
Yep. All that text on the cards is obfuscating the bad design. Seven Wonders is just that, like, that is the game, those cards.
Sushi Go's even better.
Sushi Go's great. Anyway, things of the day.
I think I used this as a thing of the day already, but Rim says I did not.
I don't think you did.
I think I did, but I'll do it again anyway.
Oh, fuck, I forgot what my thing of the day was. You do your thing. Oh, I remember.
Here is a video of some Russian gentlemen, and they found, while fishing or something, or I don't know what the hell they're doing, they found a can of rations from the war, as in 1940-something Soviet rations in a can.
Is this like that guy who found that beer in his gutter?
And they open that can, and they dig right in, these happy old Russian dudes. There's some sort of meat-like material in this can. Watch at your own risk.
All right. This sounds a lot like that video of the guy who found a can of beer in his gutter from the 80s and tried to chug it.
I think that one is actually worse than this one, but
that one though is at least funny because of how immediate. So that video, spoilers, not Scott's video.
Projectile vomiting.
The guy throws his head back to drink the beer and vomits so fast that it's almost a violation of the speed of light and causality. Like the vomit comes out
Like
so
as soon as
fast.
the beer like gets near his face, like,
It's like
his whole stomach just turns
I
inside
almost
out.
suspect that before the beer even got into his mouth, the brain was like, whoa, 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 what the hell are you doing? I'm gonna put
Ejects
the-
everything from digestive system in both directions. Warning, warning.
Abort. So, if you're ever in New York City, there's a thing in a few streets, there aren't that many of these, that very few cities in the world have, let alone in New York where they're super rare. Sometimes you'll see a really, really tall building, and there'll be another really, really tall building, and there will be a sky bridge connecting the two of them.
I've seen a few sky bridges around.
Yeah,
Some of them are like closed, like you can't actually get into them even if you're in the building.
Yeah, it's just too hard to tear them down.
But there's
so
a
they
few
leave them
that are
there.
used out there.
Yeah, but not many because in cities like there are a lot of sky bridges in mid-tier cities. Like in Boston, you'll see them because they connect like a mall to another mall and stuff like that.
Yeah, or
But-
a hotel to the office building next to it.
But in New York, the few of these things that remain are usually connecting like private building to private building that are not both owned by the same people anymore, and there's no public way in the world to get into these things.
And you probably wouldn't want to anyway.
So there's one that I'd seen often. Like I passed by this thing a lot, and I recognized it. I saw a picture of it. And there's an article in Gothamist about it. Apparently, it connected an apartment to a fashion studio because the guy who lived in the apartment ran the fashion studio,
Okay.
and it's really big and cool and old. By coincidence, right now, the fashion studio was turned into an apartment. So it's two apartments owned by two totally different sets of people. They're both for sale. So
You could buy both.
if you buy both, you get the Sky Bridge.
Sure.
And apparently the Sky
If you
Bridge,
only buy one, you get half the sky bridge.
I don't know. I guess one building owns it, so you just don't get it. Like they'll lock the door.
Okay.
Like I don't know how that works, but yeah, you could buy these two apartments and you get an extra room above the street in New York City, which
All right,
would be.
when you can afford that, call me.
I would buy this apartment if I could because
If I could afford one of them, I would buy it, and someone else could buye the other one, like you, and then we'd have the sky bridge.
yeah, a Sky Bridge. Do you know what I could do with the Sky Bridge? One,
Walk
shuffleboard.
across the street without getting hit by a car.
That would be just one. I live in two buildings. That's cool enough.
Two, you could have mail sent to here or there, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't be hard to get the mail.
You know what I do?
You
I
could have delivery to either one. If you're, I'm in the kitchen now. I'd really like delivery to come here. Oh, I'm in the bedroom. I'll just send the delivery to a different address.
Oh, whoa! There's an update. So Dateline, according to the listing, the units are exclusively offered for sale together for the first time in over 30 years. The residence is 6,300 square feet combined.
Okay.
That's
Plenty.
insane
That's
for New
plenty.
York.
Plenty.
I could live in that.
I'm good. I'll take it.
Yeah, third floor level, Stable Street. So yeah,
Who's
I
got
just
the
thought-
monies? Bring it up. Let's
yeah.
do it.
Guys, you want us to do more
Kid-
Utena videos, right?
Yeah, buy us this Utena-like living situation.
If you buy us this apartment, I will make videos for you 40 hours a week for the next 20 years.
With good Skybridge lighting.
Yeah, we'll make the videos in the Sky Bridge.
Sure.
So, the best game we played at PAX was another Friedemann Friese game, who's actually one of our...
Yeah, Friedemann Friese, if you don't know, is the power grid guy.
Yep.
And all his games come in a green box, and all his games have a name that is two words that begin with F.
Which Power Grid was translated from
the
German, guys.
The German name of Power Grid is two words that begin with F. Don't get on me about this, non-German speakers.
Yep,
And
Elkfest.
Right, we played a Friedemann Friese game that is not new, but we hadn't played it before. We played it maybe 3 or 4 times at PAX.
Yep.
And that game is Fresh Fish.
Fresh fish.
Farsh Fish.
Fish.
Farsh Fish.
Our joke at PAX was saying it increasingly like that just as the weekend went on. for
Right,
some
so the
reason.
way Fresh Fish works, it's a pretty simple game. On the board, there are these 4...
Well, it's simple, but
Yes, there are 4 food trucks, and you have 4 carts, 1 cart per truck, and you want to get your fish cart as close to the fish truck as you can, and you want to get your soda cart as close to the soda truck as you can. That way, the food delivery comes in the truck. You sell the food out of your cart, and the food that you sell will be fresher than the food other people sell because the delivery took less time to get to your store
the theme
than other people's stores.
barely even comes close to making sense.
No, it makes no sense whatsoever. But
especially when you see the game, who would make pads like
I
that?
really like the art. The art is good.
Yeah, it is.
It's that kind of. It's almost like a Garbage Pail Kids style, but cuter and kitschy.
Yeah,
and
like the
I don't know
fish.
what the name for it is, but I've seen it around and I really like it.
I particularly like the fish, actually.
The fish is okay.
But your score at the end is how the combined total of how many spaces away from each cart or from each truck your respective cart is.
Now, due to the rules of the game, you have to be at least one space away. So, like, you could get a 4 because you masterfully got every cart one space away from every truck.
Yeah, so that already is a pretty solid mechanic for like a simple but complex game. To add to that, the way you play is you put reservation tokens out. On your turn, you either draw a tile from the bag, which we'll talk about, or you put a reservation token out. The reality is you put reservation tokens out for a long time. You've got 6 of them, and you just keep putting them out.
You could go really risky and go to the bag early.
If someone
But
goes
if you go to the bag when you don't have a lot of tokens out, you're pretty much just hurting yourself. So it really, the rules of the game... Sometimes, but usually if you don't have a lot of tokens on the board, you're almost definitely going to hurt yourself. So there's not a lot of incentive to just go straight for the bag and hoping you'll fuck someone else and luckily not fuck yourself.
Like, you'll know, when with people who've played this game before, if someone goes to the bag early, a hush falls over the crowd. It's like, oh,
you're going in that bag with like 2 tokens out?
Where are you going to put that cart? Where are you going to put that cart?
It's like you don't have any reservation token anywhere near the fish. What if you pull the fish out of that bag? You are just fucked.
Yep. So here's the other main mechanic. You have 14 chips or 15 chips, some number of chips.
They're money.
Oh, yeah, and you want a low score, obviously.
It's golf, low score.
The chips are negative points, and you bid them when a cart of a particular type comes up.
Right. So someone reaches in the bag and pulls out the fish card, which means it's time for somebody to put out a fish cart.
Closed fist auction. Whoever bid the most puts their cart out.
Right. And so everyone's got reservation tokens near the fish. Everyone does a closed fist auction, see who bids the most. And then that person gets to replace one of their reservation tokens with the fish cart that is theirs.
Now, because we're all pro, I mean, Chris and Anthony, who are pretty pro,
they own the
ones,
game.
Yeah, they
literally.
They were playing nothing, but they played mostly Friedemann Friese games because they also had Famiglia with them. Yeah. But so in pro mode, what you'll see if someone fucks up is everybody bids 0 because the person who drew the tile wins because they break a tie that way,
and that's why it's very dangerous.
And they are forced.
Pull the tile out.
Oh, Scott, what's that? Your fish card? You only have 1 token up? Oh, I guess you're getting max score on the fish card.
Right. It's like, so Rim goes in the bag thinking, hey, I'll pull out a card and screw these guys. I don't have a lot of tokens out, but I'll screw them over. You pull out the fish cart. Everyone sees that your token is like on the other side of the board, far away from the fish. Everyone bids 0. Rim now must put his fish cart on that far away token, and it's worth 1,000,000 points.
Yeah, Scott might be like 7, 8, 9 away from 1, but you max out at like 14 if you can't get there. And basically the way it works mechanically, other than that auction thing, is you place these little reservation things, and when something comes out, there's areas of the board, numbers of squares that are sort of surrounded, and they have a 1 or a 2 next to them. That means there can only be 1 or 2 things in that space. So if Scott puts a blocking tile on one of the spaces in a 2 area because he had a reservation thing there, and I put my cart on another one in that area, everything else in that entire area becomes roads, and anyone else who had a reservation token there just gets kicked the fuck out.
So me and Rim, we both put our reservation tokens in this area really close to the cheese. I win the cheese auction and put my cheese down. It's a 1 area, which
I get
means
kicked out.
Rim loses his reservation token. If another cheese auction happens, that could be bad news bears for Rim, who doesn't have any reservation tokens near the cheese now.
And
if I lost the auction, bad for me.
Yeah. So to make matters even worse, the carts you put out or the blocking tiles you put out block. You have to follow a road. So we kind of played bastard mode where we had carts that were kind of like trucks that were near each other. Many games in a row, a cart got entirely walled off from the entire board. And you know what the answer is in this game?
Max score.
Yep. Fuck you.
Yep.
The answer to any question, what if I do this, is you're fucked.
Yeah, it's like, what if I can connect, but I have to go off the edge of the board? It's like, oh, you can actually do that.
Yeah.
It's 2 spaces for every edge of board space you use. So that costs you like, it's max score. You're too far away.
This game looks really simple, like a light, fun game. It is one of the most brutal, like, short multiplayer games I've ever played.
The cutthroatest. of placing carts and picnic flea market stands.
This is a game where 4 or 5 people will do a closed fist auction. Everyone opens.
And everyone immediately closes all their fingers but one.
Yeah.
After seeing what the other people had in their hand.
The game has 2 phases, effectively. The posturing phase and the fucking phase. And there's really nothing else to this game.
Fresh fish fuck. So the thing about this game that I noticed, though, is that I won every time I played, I think.
I won a few times, but I lost a few times, too.
I think I played twice and won twice.
You didn't win every time you played.
I won.
You did win more often than me.
Anyway, but what I was doing that made a difference was when I was putting my reservation tokens, I was trying to put them in such a way to where no auction result could fuck me. And as long as I eventually got the auction, which is going to happen eventually, at the end of the game, every cart will have been placed no matter what, I would have my cart in a good position. So that way, I didn't have to bid a lot in the auctions. Like a cheese auction would come up, and I'd be like, you know what? If I won this cheese auction,
it'd be good.
That would be a good thing. However, if I lose the cheese auction, it's not really going to hurt me at all because I placed my marker in such a clever place that it's going to get a good score.
However,
I can't really be bumped out easily.
I saw you with that strategy.
And it worked very well, very many times.
Anthony found a pretty good counter to that strategy by bagging earlier and putting markets out, blockers, and just knocking my backup guy also off the board before the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have got max score on 2 carts and lost by a lot instead of winning by a lot.
Yeah, so I was able to, with my strategy, not have to bid a lot in the auctions. And usually there would be one auction during the game where I couldn't avoid bidding a lot. And I would bid a lot and I'd win that important auction. And then all of my carts would be like 1, 2, 3, not a lot of points at all. And I just had a ridiculously good score.
Yeah. The first time I played, which I did win, my strategy was, well, I've got these tokens. If not now, then when? My goal is to spend all of them. And it actually worked really well.
I mean, if you spend all your tokens and you don't care about bidding a lot, you're going to have great placements. And you usually... Getting great placements, your score is going to be like less than 5, 6, something like that.
But I have seen negative scores.
Sure,
so
but you know that's a terrific score though in a 4-player game, right? Where someone's getting like a 15 on something.
In a 5-player game, I saw one where someone won with like 13.
Right? Yeah, it's like you're gonna have one bad cart is going to ruin everything. So, you know, if you spend all your tokens and get all your carts in good positions, that's a good score. If you get one bad position but you didn't spend anything in the auctions, that's also going to be a good score. Right, so there's a lot of different ways you can approach it and still turn out well.
But the game is real quick to teach, real quick to play, really, really satisfying. There's some randomness elements to it, like it's not a perfect.
Well, turn order
game.
Matters a lot for getting the good positions.
But it is really fun. Like
I think turn order actually helped me quite a bit because every time, like I had at the beginning of the game, every time like a position in mind, like for my marker. And every time it got to my turn, 90% of the time, that position was still open because turn order.
Yep. But the game has a very high fun economy, as in the amount of fun per minute it takes to play is a very high value.
That is true.
And there's also, so it's a Friedemann Friese game, so it actually has 2 versions of the rules. We were playing the like newer, updated version, but there is an older version.
The more streamlined version.
Yeah, the difference between the 2 is basically in the version that we were playing, the one that most people would play, when you fill a place, then the roads go in. But in the original weird rules, it's kind of like Battle Line. You only fill in roads by deduction. By like all places have to be connected to all places. So once you show that they're like, you have to place a road here or that breaks, then roads start appearing and stuff starts happening.
Yep.
We did not actually play that way because the former way is great.
Mm-hmm.
So also the former way is kind of more dickish because in the older way, in the very least, everything's connected. But the way we were playing with the newer rules, you could very easily entirely wall something off and make the game horrible.
Very intentionally, people would pick flea market stands and line them up in a diagonal, impossible to cross by any means, so that it's like, well, the people on this side of these flea market stands can have good scores on cheese. Everyone who isn't already on this side, your cheese score is at minimum going to be like 8. And that's if you get that one spot there. Everyone else, 15, get fucked.
And you're going to look those other people in the eye as you place that cart, flipping them off and high-fiving the person who's on the good side with you.
Another part of my strategy was to specifically put markers in places I wanted flea market stands, and then go in the bag and actively try to get flea market stands to fuck people up. And it worked.
It's a super fun game. I would highly it's also really tiny. If you're a board gamer at all, just own it. It's a perfect game to have in your repertoire to like keep in the bag.
And it's not like it's not like any other game. The closest game I can think to this would be Through the Desert.
No, yeah,
but it's not.
But Through the Desert actually takes a long time.
Right,
to play.
it's not really even. It's similar to Through the Desert, but it's not close enough to where they're like displacing each other. Right? Yep. It's like there's no other game that you have that is like this game where you wouldn't want this on your shelf.
But Through the Desert takes twice as long to play as this game,
and it's not as
satisfying.
Good. Yeah.
So like this is a kind of game that I would just carry in my backpack at a convention, right alongside like Elkfest and those other little games that I carry around and Wizard.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
That's it.
Fresh fish.
Fresh fish. This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.